There might be some rain coming through. We expect rain soon. Rain is close. The session has been declared wet. No sign of this rain stopping. Rain is clearing up. Rain should be gone for now. Nothing but sunshine all day.
Later, Masker can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second part, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around, we're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force him off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at it.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom.
Richard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging.
Oh
and to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
The North Sea Coast is now our new battleground for round 3, season 10 of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge, live here on Racer Nexus. Welcome along, everybody. Glad to have you along for the ride here at this Dutch roller coaster. Well, Circuit Zandvoort opened back in 1948, measures just over 4.2 kilometers and has 14 turns. And it is a very, very tricky track to get your head around. 31 feet above sea level because we're right by the North Sea coast. Alex Goldschmidt, joined by Sagar Bakshi in the commentary box, and joining us behind the scenes, our producer, Rob Campbell. Well, we're a fifth of the way through this 10-round calendar, and it is set to be a race of epic proportions. After this, next week, we head to the Miami International Autodrome, and then we head to Road America for the halfway point of the season. Then it's a trip over to Asia, to the land of the rising sun, for the first of two encounters this season. Suzuka for round 6, and then we have a little bit of a mid-season break before we return stateside to Laguna Seca. Then it's another trip across the Atlantic to the island known as the United Kingdom, as Silverstone, the home of British Motorsport, hosts round 8. Then we go to the Brickyard, Indianapolis, for round 9, and the hills of Mount Fuji, Fuji Speedway, will conclude this season on the calendar. What's more, a big thank you to the sponsors of this league. Firstly, Hymo Setups, who provide professional racing sim setups for any driver of any skill level. It's used by HPR drivers and helps to improve and elevate the standard of racing along all classes. Each race winner gets a 1-month Hymo subscription. Next up, Monster Designs, who provide custom race liveries, professional designs and branding for drivers and teams. Lastly, our good friends over at Admin Box. And this is an organisational tool helping race control, broadcast and operational support. Supports league operations and structure thereof. And with that in mind, we still have our championships very much underway after the opening 2 rounds. Let's take you through the scores as they stand. As Christian Ruiz leads the way on 58 points ahead of Dan Griffin, and Lakenshaw rounding out the top 3 in the Pro Division, followed by Nick Maynard, Henry Fenson, the man from Australia, Matthew Mai, Jace Larson, Ryan Anderson rounding out the top 8. Then next up, it is Pro-Am that we head to with Nicolay Sanchez just ahead of the HPR overlord that is Carlos Ruiz Padilla, with Thomas King rounding out the top 3. Ken Cloden, Chris Nauman, Nicholas LaFrance, Donald Powell, Nicholas Matthews, Matthew Mitchell and Scott Farrell round out the top 10. Lastly, we go to the AM division with Nicholas Lanciers ahead of Travis Stevens. They're tied on points, but Lanciers has got the benefit of the doubt on that one based on previous results. Andrew Davis rounds out the top 3 with Chris Edwards, Edgardo Gomez, Ian Morrison, Jason Burmeister, and then Ted Seidel rounding out the top 8. Let's head trackside as we have just over 3 minutes to go at this particular track, and let's give you an introduction of this wonderful circuit. So 2.6 miles, 14 corners, and with a lot of the turns that are featuring anywhere between 18 to 19 degree banking, especially going through out of turn 14, named after IndyCar Dutch legend, the one and only Mr. Arie Luyendyk. And Sagar, welcome back, buddy. Good to have you alongside me in the comms box. But this track, it's going to really give a stern test for everybody. There's a lot of opportunities for passing here, including going down into Tarzan at T1, but there's a lot of undulation and a lot of camber changes that the drivers are going to have to combat tonight.
Absolutely, especially coming out of the final corner after the rework. There's a lot of banking there that allows drivers to carry more speed than perhaps they were used to. Also, the entrance towards turn 3, Hugenholtz. If you get it right, you can carry a ton of momentum through there. But if you get it wrong, you'll find yourself into the barrier.
So at the moment, it is Christian Ruiz leading the way overall. Ken Cloden in 8th position, who is leading in the Pro-Am side of things, reference qualifying. And Nicholas Lanciers in the number 51 car, rounding out your top 14, but is currently on pole for that division. But then we've had a big change. Dan Griffin now goes quicker at the top of the timesheets by just over 0.22 of a second. Dan Griffin, one of the drivers in the Lamborghini squadron. Of course, Dan Griffin and also his teammate Nick Maynard, they are running 1 and 2. They were battling tooth and nail last time out at Imola, and we both remember that one, Sagar, basically because that was 60 minutes of madness in that region of Italy.
Absolute chaos in Italy last time we were together, but man, oh man, the HBR League does provide us with some of the best drivers in iRacing. We have drivers rating from nearly 3 digits all the way up to 6K rating. So the grid is stacked with professionalism and ability to be able to go wheel to wheel and challenge each other. One of the things I also love the most about HPR is the multi-class racing that we get within the GT3 category. Provides everybody an opportunity for something to fight for week in, week out.
Yeah, and with that being said, we are coming up to the halfway point here in this, well, we're over halfway through in this 15-minute qualifying session. Let's remind you of the race format. So it is a 60-minute race here at Circuit Zandvoort. Qualifying is 15 minutes, and then it's 60% maximum fuel is allowed, open setups for all drivers, 1 fast repair at their disposal, incident limit, first drive-through penalty at 15x, and then every 10x afterwards is a further trip down the lengthy pit lane, as you literally have to go exit stage right coming out of Ari Luijendijk at turn number 14. Current conditions at the moment, 68 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 73 degrees track temp, humidity of 62%, southwesterly wind to the tune of 11 miles an hour, and overcast, dry, no chance of precipitation, but because we're so close to the North Sea coast, never say never. Nicolás Sanchez in the number 2 car, currently sitting at 12th overall in this qualifying session. He's definitely looking to release the Kraken as he's making his way through the final couple of corners through Kumo and now through Ari Luijendijk. There's Henry Fenton, the man from Evolution Sim Sports from Sydney in Australia. And let's ride on board with the man himself on a full hot lap here at Circuit Zandvoort. So you're on the gas all the way through, and then it's down into second gear. 60 miles an hour. Now apply the power. Heading into this nice little Piff-Paff complex heading into Gerlachbocht. And then it's hard on the brakes. A lot of banking here at Hugenholtz. Normally you'll try to go to the high side, get as close to the apex as you can. And then it's now the run up through the sand dunes here in the Netherlands. Through Hunsrug, up through Slottermacher, and then Schevelach. Downhill, turn right, and hope it sticks. And you can see just how committed Henry Fenton is at the moment. Now into Masters, and then into turn 9 and turn 10. He's got a little bit of traffic just to get through, but does not really impede him that much. Looks to be Christian Ruiz, judging by that livery. And then it's into the long run down to Hans Ernst. And this is where the Mercedes, with its 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8 powered drivetrain, gets a really, really good launch. And Henry Fenton he's crossing the T's, dotting the I's, keeping his powder dry. It's out of turn 12. Short run up to Kumo, into turn 13. Down to about 90 miles an hour, third gear, and then you can start accelerating through Ari Luijendijk. And at the moment, Henry Fenton currently sits P5 at the minute. Could be a good final sector for the man from Australia. And he's about to cross the line now. Is that an improvement? Yes, it is. A 132.488 still keeps him P5 at the moment. But a great visual there, Sagar, of just how technical this circuit really is. I think at the end of the day, all the circuits that we see, until we get a true onboard representation from the drivers, it doesn't do the drivers or the track any justice whatsoever.
No, it really doesn't. Until you're in the car, you don't really feel or notice all the undulations here. Even the track data says that there's only 29 feet of elevation change here, but it feels like it's so much more dramatic than that because the banking on these corners seems to be about 15 feet high.
Yeah, it does. As well, Maynard still leads the way, but Dan Griffin is closing that gap. It's 51 thousandths in the battle for pole position. As unfortunately, Ian Morrison gets a black flag, so return to pits. Here comes Dan Griffin making his way up to Schevelach through Slottermacher. And of course, for those remembering what the Netherlands is famous for, apart from a certain particular driver, who's ever heard of Max Verstappen? But it's known for its stroopwafels, windmills, and plenty of flat terrain. Only you might say that Zandvoort is a little bit of an exception to that rule with the amount of banking that it's got. But we're into the final 70 seconds of this qualifying session. Carlos Ruiz Padilla now up into P8, P1 in Pro-Am. And it's the 88 of Chris Edwards in the Merc that has gone provisional pole in the AM division. Christian Ruiz trying to improve. Still very much a meritocracy for Ferrari, 4 out of the top 5. But then when you consider the other manufacturers that we have got overall in the top 10, 5 of which 50% are Ferraris, 2 BMWs, 1 Corvette, 1 Mercedes and 1 Ford. So a big amount of different manufacturers as Nick Maynard goes even quicker, opens up the gap between himself and Dan Griffin as we've got 30 on the timer to go. 1:31.557 by the number 100, and of course 100 force in previous competitions before this season here on HPR GT World Challenge favoured the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, but have gone to the Cavallino Rampante, and it seems to be working so far for the 100 force pairing. As here goes Maynard, we're going to very shortly have the checkered flag out, and there it is. Checkered flag out for qualifying here at Circuit Zandvoort for round 3 out of 10. Let's not forget that there are a couple of drop scores involved, so it's the best 8 from 10 results. That will be their total points tally, and at the end of season 10, the overall champions in all 3 classes will win an entry to season 11 and also get a cool $30 in their back pocket. Oh, well, that's how you don't end qualifying, Nicolas Lancier. Is the car on its lid?
Definitely not. Here comes Donald Powell in the 86 to finish up the session as well. Looks like P23 will be all she wrote for Powell tonight.
Yeah, so it is going to be the case of how far up the order can the man in the Corvette. Of course, Donald did some really good work behind the wheel last season in season 9. Of course, quite a few of our drivers will also be partaking in the next round of the High Point Racing IMSA series this coming Thursday night, live here on Racer Nexus. That'll be at 9 PM Eastern. But more to the point, Travis Stevens trying to improve. And Nick Maynard, does he go any quicker on that lap? Actually, that's his best lap of well, that particular one was a 1:33.189, so that is not going to put him any higher up the field because he's already on pole position anyway. Nevertheless, Donald Powell out of the final corner, out of Ali Lyondike. Let's see if that flat plane crank V8 can do anything. No, Donald Powell decides to dive into pit lane, and that is going to conclude pretty much our qualifying session, apart from Christian Ruiz taking as much opportunity to get to know the track as humanly possible. So I don't think this is going to be a stellar lap from him, but at least at the end of the day, the more time you can get on the circuit here, Sagar, every single second is so valuable.
Especially when it comes down to practicing your pit stops. In all honesty, your race can be made or lost with a pit stop cycle that goes wrong. You can lose seconds, you can lose minutes, even if you select damage repair, for example. Man, oh man, if you practice those pit stops, hit the pit limiter at the right time, it can really make a difference in your race.
Okay, it's about that time. We're ready for revs up and ready to go to green here at Circuit Zandvoort. Let's take you through the starting grid. It's Nick Maynard and Dan Griffin on a lockout for 100 force on the front row. Christian Ruiz and Henry Fenton, Ferrari and Mercedes on row 2. Then Ferrari and BMW, row 3, Jace Larson and Ryan Anderson. Row 4 is Xavi Santos and Carlos Ruiz Padilla, the latter being on Pro-Am pole. Rounding out the top 10 is Tyshawn Green and Jim Peel.
Nicholas Matthews and Kenneth Cloden round out 11 and 12. Then over the 13th and 14th, Nikolai Sanchez and Thomas King. 15th and 16th belong to Andrew Davis and Nicholas LaFrance. And then the 8th row goes the way for Chris Edwards and Scott Farrell. That'll be the final in the top 20, and it's Travis Stevens and David Henry.
27 cars set to hit the grid. Jason Burmeister and Sonic, powered by Nicholas Lanciers, rounds out row number 11. Row 12, Donald Powell and Edgardo Gomez. Row 13, it's going to be Chase Eisenberg in the initial D Mercedes, with Ted Seidel in the wonderful-looking Lamborghini Huracan, rounding out the penultimate position on the grid. And Ian Morrison in the number 26 Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo brings up the rear of the field. And it is going to be a full pace lap of this 2.6-mile, 14-corner circuit. Let's not forget, it's 60 minutes. So that is going to be crucial for these drivers. They are not really going to have a chance to breathe until they come out of turn number 14, because this is a very tight, very technical circuit. It will be the iRacing official safety car, the M2 Cup car, that will lead us around the circuit, and then when that peels into pit lane, we will be ready to rock and roll here along the North Sea coast. It has also been the home of the Formula One Heineken Dutch Grand Prix, and this year being the last of that being happening since the redevelopments. Of course, ex-F1 legend Jan Lammers was a big hand in doing that, but this is where these drivers are going to be put under the kibosh. Hopefully they're fueled up on local stroopwafels and maybe some of the local delicacies like broodje croquette or something like that, but they've got to get ready, because this is going to be one of the toughest challenges here in Season 10. It is a true classic, and funny enough, a little bit of history from my side, it was the first circuit back in September of 2013 where I went for my first ever overseas media accreditation for the battle between Mike Rockenfeller and Augusto Farfus for the DTM title that year.
Man, what a history lesson there. Alex Goldschmidt dropping bombs of knowledge on us here at Zandvoort. Speaking of, you know that Zandvoort's history runs deep? This is obviously, and like most tracks in the European region, developed from post-World War II military roads, and this one was actually built by the locals themselves.
Yeah, it was a combination of street, basically local streets, straight roads and paths originally laid out with debris from bombed buildings during World War II, and hosted the first official Dutch Grand Prix back in 1952, so 2 years after Silverstone hosted the first ever Formula One World Championship Grand Prix. But this is going to be the crucial moment about lining up and getting the whole shot on the start. It is not going to be easy, but once that pace car heads into pit lane, it is then time for the two Ferraris, the pair from Hundred Force, Nick Maynard and Dan Griffin. They will be controlling the pace. It's going to be around about 80 kilometers an hour is your starting pace. It is down to the front row to lead us to green, but people have to be very, very careful. They've got to be going through on straight lines, and there you see it, picture in picture. There is Carlos Ruiz Padilla, our Pro-Am pole sitter, of course a Season 9 champion in his own right, but things are looking far from over. We've still got a long way to go, but a short time to get there here at the HPR GT World Challenge. And a big thank you for everyone that's joined us here on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your company wherever you're watching in the world. We hope you stick with us for this Dutch seaside roller coaster. And I'm not going to put you on the spot here, Sagar. I don't like to do that to fellow commentators, even though some people that I've worked with in the booth have accidentally thrown me under the bus. What's going to be the key points here tonight?
Well, I think there's a couple of key points to the race, and it all comes down to the track and the track conditions. Getting sheet block right, that's turn 6. It's one of the bravest corners in Europe. It's flat out through there. And GT3 machinery, man, if you can do it flat out, that's how you know you're dialed in. Get turn 14 right, the 18-degree banking, it's steeper than Indy. Drivers can go full send there. If you get that right, you'll be all right. But really, I think it's just a rhythm-based track. If you can get the rhythm right, you'll be doing okay for this sprint race.
Okay, we've got a nice little onboard there with the number 14, Carlos Ruiz Padilla, starting from the outside of row number 4. Pace car will now peel into pit lane, and we are set and ready It's a little bit of a long way. It's a long straightaway here at Circuit Zandvoort before we get the green flag. And here we go. We are waiting. Green flag in the air, and now we can get underway. Good start by the front row, even between Maynard and Griffin. Fenton trying to thread the eye of the needle. He's up the inside of Griffin, but he's got to the outside of Ruiz. But the 200 Force Ferraris lead the way. Fenton might get the run on Christian Ruiz going through into Gerlach as they head into Hugenholtz for the first time. And some drivers deciding to go midpoint, Anderson being one of them. But oh no, Jace Larson in the barriers into Hugenholtz. And the right rear has taken the significant amount of the battering against that wall, and the right rear is damaged, and he's going to have to return that to the pit lane, I'm afraid, that unless he can get that car all the way round the next 2.4 miles. Let's have a look at the replay. Well, that was the aftermath, and that right rear, I think, is not going to be tracking true. Meantime, Ruiz and Fenton still wheel to wheel on the run up through in towards Slaughtermarker. And that's the replay. Jace Larson, I didn't really see any contact there, but it looked like the car just lost. It looked like he just hit the curb, and it just unsettled the back left, spun the right rear into the barriers. And Jace Larson is, as well, Ted Seidel's had a moment off track as well, and he's dropped behind Jace Larson. Meantime, Christian Ruiz, who wasn't on the pace of Maynard and Griffin last time out at Imola, he definitely looks to be a little bit more racier in these early stages.
Absolutely true, but what can anybody do to challenge Big Nick Maynard? Will be Dan Griffin, his teammate, to throw down at the end of the day. He's a little too far back to do anything right now. About 7/10 back, but charging through the field. Ruiz Padilla has green behind him, and a little bit of buffer always helps out between yourself and your next opponent. And then further down the order, we have Edwards leading his class with Davis and Lancier also in third, but big buffers in the midfield.
And that gap that Nick Maynard started to stretch out as Christian Ruiz. Oh no! Dan Griffin around and lost the rear wing. Oh, and he's lost the back. Oh, the back decking. That is an unfortunate DRS situation there, which is not really required. As Carlos Ruiz Padilla's been off the track, he's lost the lead to Jim Peel, the man from the US, also represents. Oh dear. Oh, Dan Griffin is in a real big old hurt locker. Kind of reminds me of Henry Fenton and Lucia Tosi last time out coming together. And there is Nicholas Matthews. Oh dear, the Lunatic Racing Ferrari's also hit trouble, and that back end is a shade of his former self, and he is going to have to return that to the garage. So some big dramas. I knew it was going to catch out drivers, but not quite so early as we've seen, as Jim Peel now leads. But Carlos Ruiz Padilla, that was an uncharacteristic mistake, and we're going to see what happens between him. Oh, he just wobbles, goes off, and Christian Ruiz. Oh, how many of those 9 cat lies did he just lose on that Code Brown moment?
What a sketchy situation. There's the tiniest of touches into the rear end of Dan Griffin, and that's all it took for him to lose control of his vehicle. And then just graze up against the barrier causes them to lose the entire rear panel.
Yeah, so Dan Griffin and Nicholas Matthews both in the pit lane. So hopefully they'll be able to, well, it looks like Nicholas Matthews has got a little bit more damage, and that's also including the toe, as here we have Thomas King in Rexy, and he's battling with Andrew Davis. Ford versus Aston Martin. The Ford gets through on the run up to Schevelag through Slaughtermarker, but again, Jace Larson making a bit of a recovery drive. He's now back up to 19th, and that is Chase Eisenberg, who's got no front panel on that Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 Evo, which has got the initial D livery on it. And I have, you'll be pleased to know, Sagar, I have started watching a bit of Initial D is in the manga. Very, very different to the live-action movie, of course.
Yeah, thank God you started watching. I thought we couldn't be friends there for a minute. Whoa, and there's the spin from Claude and 1. Oh man, holy Toledo, and 2 Ferraris making tender love on the side of the racetrack. It's not exactly the whoa, and that's what down.
Okay, so there now, yeah, that was the little bit of a hip check that started the chain reaction between Messrs. Clodin and Matthews. I wonder how Eisenberg lost his front bumper. We're going to see here with Nick Lancier's, and you can see all the madness happening. And yeah, I think there was a little bit too, well, it was more than a love tap. It was like, okay, let's skip first base on that one. But oh, and that is one of the 100th Force cars. That is going to be Dan Griffin. Dan Griffin has lost it. That was earlier, and that is Carlos Ruiz Padilla's off track. And Dan Griffin, despite having no rear panel, no rear wing, still managing to get through, but he stumbles. And this is Jace Larson again. This was through, Code Brown through Harry Lyondike and just keeps it out of the barriers. Rear tyres smoking like a good un. So Jace Larson in the pit lane. Jace Larson, who we saw having great success last time out in Season 9, since switching to that Ferrari, it's been a bit of his nemesis, so to speak. He hasn't quite got to grips with the car yet.
It's definitely a different vehicle that most drivers aren't well equipped to use. I mean, the Ferrari likes precision, but does not punish drivers really as harshly as some of the sharper mid-engine cars. It will rotate well, puts power down well, and feels efficient. But really, is it the complete package? I don't think so for endurance races like this. It's just not the right choice, but Maynard and Ruiz are proving me wrong.
Yeah, Ruiz took the opening win of the season, let's not forget. But in Imola, I think it's been a case of, I did say that this is going to be a tough track to get your head around, and several drivers, including Dan Griffin, Jace Larson, Nicholas Matthews, they have all found that Zandvoort can fight back. Ryan Anderson chasing down the Mercedes, the number 10 of Evolution Simsports, man from Sydney, Australia, Henry Fenton. This is the battle for P3 overall, as they're now going to head into turn 8 at Masters. And then here's the infield section, as going into Shavelak is where you break the timing beam for sector 2. But again, as we always see here on HPR, it's not just also about the skill and the quality of the drivers, but also the wonderful liveries that gives everyone all their own corporate identity. And what I love about the facts is that Nick Maynard and Dan Griffin, the 100 Force, they've gone a bit of an invert on both, with Maynard running mainly white and then flashes of green, and Dan Griffin is the other way around, green with flashes of white. So at least that makes it a little bit easier for us here in the commentary box to differentiate between teammates, unless it's wing mirrors or alloy wheels, as Edgardo Gomez now trying to get through. And that's on Jason Burmeister in the number 17 Mustang. That is for P5 in GTD AM. And just ahead they've got Eisenberg, who might, I think, it doesn't seem to be hampering having no front panel on the front of that Mercedes, but it is going to hurt his aerodynamics and also maybe give him a little bit of additional top speed, but he'll be able to use that fast repair in the pit lane. So Eisenberg is just toughing it out a little bit.
Toughing it out just a little bit for now. But here's the onboard from Edgardo Gomez. And the GT Tech driver looks to the inside line on the number 17, but body blocks are in full effect coming through turn number 1. And all the way down to one of the highest banking points on the racetrack, where the elevation is, like we said earlier, steeper than Indianapolis. Here comes Dan Griffin now, trying to get by Gomez in his own right. But can he do it? And up ahead, another battle continues to brew.
Yeah, looks like Jace Larson and Nick Matthews have unfortunately retired their cars, so we're down to 25 runners and riders. Look how deep Dan Griffin is on the brakes in the 101 Ferrari, but Eisenberg is giving him enough racing room here. Well played there by the number 20, but Griffin is trying to keep it to the outside, might try and get the switch back. Good to see that Edgardo Gomez is the only one in the field trying to give the Acura NSX GT3 Evo 22 a little bit of screen time. The only driver that has had the gumption to go with that car and has had some good showings. Chris Edwards battling away, and that is with Donald Powell, I believe, in the number 86 Corvette, who currently sits 8th in GTD Pro Am. So P21 overall, P8 in class. Meantime, Anderson trying to hurry up Henry Fenton into a potential unforced error as they go through out of Shavla. I still remember at the corner just afterwards, I still remember when Jamie Green turfed Dirk Werner into that corner and spun the BMW around, and unfortunately the marshal was trying to find the right button on there. Oh, well, Jason Burmeister has just gone round at Tugendholz at turn 3. Let's have a look at the replay here. So through Gerlach on the brakes, and he's just, yeah, the back end's starting to step out on its own. It's going to rotate. No. Oh, and Dan Griffin having nowhere to go. A little bit of contact between the pair. And Dan Griffin ends up with a rear bumper in front of his Ferrari, which has now escaped the scene of the incident. Meantime, Christian Ruiz, well, it's actually Dan Griffin that's lost his front panel, so that car's going to have to take a trip for a fast repair down pit lane, because there is absolutely no aero at all. No front splitter, no canards, and a very, very exposed front end. But meantime, Christian Ruiz and Nick Maynard, they have been swapping fastest laps. It was a 1:32.113 by Ruiz last time he crossed the stripe, and Nick Maynard has gone the best part of nearly a tenth quicker on a 1:32.017. So the race at the front end of the field is between these two Ferraris at this point, as we are coming up to 12 minutes completed. One of the interesting things I've just seen there, Sagar, with Chase Eisenberg, yeah, he is losing a heck of a lot of top speed coming out of corners, and with that front panel missing, there's no aerodynamic air channels to escape around that front panel, so it's all like literally going underneath the headlights and stopping him somewhat. But oh, and Chris Edwards just rotates. He's another one that's just done that at Hugenholz. But lucky enough, Eisenberg was able to go left hand down, keep it out of the way.
Oh my goodness. You get pointed in the right direction, but Maynard and Ruiz is separated by less than a second right now. Fenton and Anderson, 3:10 separation there. Nick Lancier a little too deep right now for the 51. It may have opened the door, but is the run good enough for Sonic the Hedgehog coming into the final chicane?
Well, he goes deep into Hans Ernst at turn 11 and is going to bring a lot of gravel onto the circuit out of turn 12, actually known as the Audi. Leads in head of Travis Steve. Eisenberg rounding out the top 5. And, well, again, just showcasing that it's nice to see some cars once again getting a little bit of a love in his feet.
Absolutely.
In this Aston Martin, he's got a Ferrari trying to go through on him, and he's going to let them pass, because at the end of the day he's running his own race here. Is Andrew Davis, P14 overall, and leads by about 3.9 seconds from Travis Stevens. And this is interesting. Top 5 in AM. Aston leads Corvette, Porsche, Acura and Mercedes. In Pro, Ferrari, Mercedes, BMW, Ford. Pro Am, Ferrari, BMW, Porsche and McLaren. Scott Farrell, the sole 720S GT3 Evo runner in this field, and he is currently running P11 overall, P5 in Pro-Am. And now we're starting to see drivers get into that little bit of a flow state here, Sagar.
Yes, it's definitely the metronomic state of the endurance race, right? Where things settle in, the drivers have settled in, and they just start running hot laps. It's a battle between themselves and the stopwatch more than anything else.
Yeah, so we're getting closer and closer to 45 minutes of this race left to go. Of course, with the 60% fuel limit. It is going to be an interesting one, as we always find here at HPR GT World Challenge Saga. We don't know what the strategies are going to be employed by the drivers, as they keep us guessing right up until we see when the pit stops start to occur. But this battle here between Ryan Anderson and Henry Fenton is continuing onwards. They've got to keep an eye on their rear view mirrors at the moment, because the sole Brazilian on the grid, Xavi Santos in the 589 Mustang, is not that far away. He's 1.4 seconds off. And looking at the lap times, Santos was the second quickest out of this trio. Fenton was the quickest by next to nothing, but Ryan Anderson has just put in his fastest lap of the race, 1:32.421. And more to the point, this BMW is looking very, very racy indeed. And Fenton knows that he's under the kibosh. He knows that he's under pressure as we ride on board the roof cam of the BMW, the number 46, the man from the USA, as we head through up the hill through Slaughtermacher, down into Shavelach. Big dab of brakes, not just once, but twice by Henry Fenton, just to keep that Mercedes under control. And into turn 8 at Masters, now into sector number 2. This is where these drivers are really, really starting to put the pressure on. But Nick Maynard at the front end of the field, Sagar, now has nearly a 1.9 second lead over Christian Ruiz. So again, Maynard for the second round of the road, stretching the legs on that 296 GT3 from Maranello.
It's been a great run for Maynard so far, but there's a big asterisk next to that so far part. He still has a lot of work to do to get to the checkered flag. The number on the clock right now is 43 minutes. 43 minutes of racing left to go. What can Maynard do? But more importantly, what can Ruiz do as he continues to drop like a stone behind a 32.3 last time by? He keeps on losing tenths time after time.
Yeah, looking at the sector times, it's mainly sectors 1 and 3 where Ruiz is losing a lot of his time, but he seems to have it hooked up very, very well indeed through that middle sector coming out of Shavelach. When it's the technicality, some drivers really are able to showcase their late braking and precise turning in skills, and it's more the case of how you bring the cars, you have to like literally grab the car by the scruff of the neck, bring it kicking and screaming around. That's been what's quite interesting, that Maynard seems to be a lot more confident in the mid to high speed corners, whereas Ruiz finds that the middle part of the track, sector 2, is where he really shines as he goes off the circuit. That is going to cost him at least a good 3 tenths to maybe potentially 4 tenths of a second, Sagar. So Christian Ruiz has got to keep his powder dry, keep his nose clean. A lot of gravel there, and that's coming out of turn 12. That's not going to help with regards to tyre contact for the tarmac here at the circuit.
No, it's not, but the driver's going to use all of the track that they bought and paid for, especially coming out of the final corner. They're going to charge down the front straightaway for the 13th time. It'll be completed under this lap. But I'm still interested in Christian Ruiz's lap time. Last time by 1:32.547. You saw that he was going to lose a couple of tenths by going off the track. It doesn't seem to be the case. He was able to match Nicholas Maynard's last lap time, that 1:32.59 as well. So the pace is definitely there. Henry Fenton last time by 32.8, 32.7, 32.2, 33.2, excuse me, from Santos in that 5.89.
I think one of the interesting things was that on the previous tour, Christian Ruiz set his fastest opening sector and was over 2 and a bit tenths of a second quicker than Nick Maynard. Here we see the battle between Messrs Peel and Ruiz Padilla for the Pro-Am class lead as they head through downhill at the sweeper at turn 7 through Shavelach. Jim Peel resides in the USA, but also has family links to the Isle of Man, which is why he runs the flag. And also we had a wonderful conversation post-race last time out at Imola, when he's actually got family over there, and quite nice to see that the world of sim racing isn't as big as we know it to be, because of one of the things is that my grandmother on my dad's side was actually buried in the capital city of Douglas, which is the main hosting point of the Isle of Man Tourist Trophy, the Isle of Man TT, one of the craziest road races for motorcycles in the world. And that is just as big as the Northwest 200, both events happening in UK soil every single season, and has some of the best of motorcycle riders from around the world, no matter what.
What's that race called, Alex?
The Isle of Man TT.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Unlike the liar, pants on fire, stag our back sheet.
Had to do it. Had to do it to you, Alex.
I know. I could just tell by that sarcastic grin that you had on the tone when you said, "What's that race called again, Alex?" No, but I think at the end of the day, you know, for us fans that love a lot of motorsport, you know, it's not just about four wheels, which we're concentrating on tonight, but also two wheels. There is a lot of racing that happens every single weekend around the globe. But look at this. Anderson is keeping Fenton very much under the kibosh here, Sagar, and I think that if he can outdo the Aussie in the pit stop, then that could help him to a podium spot here at the Netherlands. But we've still got 38.5 minutes to go until the checkered flag.
You know what's interesting as well, looking at the timing tower, Fenton and Anderson are actually faster in a straight line. Anderson actually top speed 159 compared to 156s from the Ferraris up front. So those Ferraris are a little bit limited in their top speed, and obviously Anderson's getting a huge toe from Fenton, and a big dive to the inside line here at Tarzan. A little touch galore, but Fenson's gonna snap back and give the same respect. I'm only sure of that. Leading into turn 2 side by side, Fenton attacks the sausages with blazing glory. But now he's around the high side at turn 3. He's going to carry the momentum through the S's. He's got to go single file line there, and Fenton leads Anderson in one of the most dangerous parts of the track to go side by side.
Yeah, up through Slottermacher into Schävler, and Anderson has got to try and do that all over again, but make sure that the oh yeah, Rubbing's racing, but that was great respect between the two drivers, the Australian and the American, in this battle for P3. But Xavi Santos is closing in. That gap at one point was 1.8 seconds. It's now down to just over a second, and that's a wonderful looking Mobil 1 livery on the 589. The man from Brazil could have an opportunity maybe here of a top 3 finish, but meantime, Maynard leading Ruiz by now what is 2.1 seconds, as our 3 drivers, the trio battling over the last step on the rostrum, are covered by about 1.5 seconds. The gap between Santos and Anderson has now dipped below a second for the first time in quite a few laps. But then we see Dan Griffin, what on earth is he at? I don't know how he's still able to keep that car on the black stuff with no front bumper on it. He's got no front bumper, no headlights to speak of, because I think it's part of the actual design of the car. Yeah, he's got absolutely no headlights whatsoever, and he's still able to keep that car at the moment. He's P15, and his last lap time, get this, was quicker than Tyshawn Green, quicker than Ryan Anderson, and just slightly quicker than Henry Fenton, whereas Maynard and Ruiz are running in the high 131.9s.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or wait, if it is broke, don't fix it. There's something in there somewhere. I'm not sure what it is, but he's doing a great job driving that wounded bird home. I mean, unbelievable pace from a car that's missing half of its aero package at a track that you kind of need it. It's a mid-speed track. You're carrying a lot of speed through these corners, but somehow, some way, that aero loss at the front, he's just coped with it.
Yeah, and that just goes to show the caliber of the drivers that we have here at HPR GT World Challenge. We are just over 5 minutes to go until half-time. And what an interesting developments, set of developments that we've had. We've had dramas. Ken Clodin has been in the pits as well, along with, well, Nick Matthews is out. Also, Chris Edwards and Ian Morrison, both were in the pits on lap 12 for significant repair time. And let's have a look. So this is with Ian Morrison. And he has got in front of him the car 17 Jason Burmeister, and Ian Morrison. Oh, a little bit of a love tap, a little bit of a kiss with the barriers there for the front end of the 26 Mercedes. Oh, and that is why. Watch your rejoin. I think maybe that could have been very much avoided had Ian Morrison just kept on the brakes. That's one of the things that you're instructed to do, but that is going to be a learning exercise for Ian Morrison, who will probably have a little bit of a telling off by Chris Edwards as we ride on board with the number 88. So yeah, I'm not sure if he possibly had any idea. I mean, if his crew chief had said, "Car on your right," it would have been probably a little bit too late, but that just happens. That's part and parcel of racing. Whereas Anderson and Fenton, this has been a great battle between this duo. A little bit of a wobble by Anderson as he goes onto the dust, heading out towards turns 11 and 12. That would have been coming out of turn 10 at that particular part on the circuit. Got to be very careful with the runoff areas here at the Netherlands, because they can bite back. I mean, you look at the amount of gravel on the high side of Kumo at turn 13, but then you have to worry about the big concrete wall on your left-hand side coming through Aring-Lyondijk as we ride on board with the 589 on the roof cam for a brief moment. Xavi Santos still chasing down Anderson and Fenton. The battle for P3 still very much alive and well.
Definitely rages on with ferocity. Here's Donald Powell coming out of the pits here just about at the halfway point of the race. That should leave him calm, cool, and collected to run it to the end.
Yeah, and there's Jim Peel, continues to lead the way in the Pro-Am division and is 7th overall, 1.7 seconds ahead of Carlos Ruiz Padilla. And meantime, Andrew Davis is still leading in AM, but more to the point. Okay, right, Thomas King has just gone into the pit lane, and I think he's just been caught speeding, because there was straightaway a black flag checkup on the pit lane as Dan Griffin comes into the pits. We've also got David Henry in the 22 Ferrari. He's coming to pit road. So there could be a lot of pit lane activity very, very shortly indeed. And that is going to be Nicolas Lancier. Sonic the Hedgehog comes in for a bit of a refuel service and is currently sitting 17th overall, 4th in the class, make that 5th. So look at this, Santos is right with Anderson. So it's a case of one, well, unstoppable force versus a movable object, but you've got 3 that are going to make it a big old free-for-all, but it just depends on which of these 3 will go and blink first at this point. As they complete lap number 18 of the race, they are still staying out at the minute.
You know, Fenton has been doing a great job controlling this pack right now. The only concern I have right now for Fenton is, what are his tires like underneath him? Will all this drive behind him? You know, has he been overdriving his car perhaps? Will he be able to make it to the checkered flag on that same set? Will he have to lose time by taking a new set in pit lane? It all comes down to strategy and pit lane execution at the end of the day, but their story is really set from the way you handle your car from the checkered flag, from the green flag to the checkered flag.
Yeah, it looks like Jim Peel's really started to get the wind underneath his rear wing on the number 49 Ferrari, because he is closing on quickly to Tyshawn Green in the number 8 Corvette, who currently rounds out the overall top 6. So Jim Peel looking for an opportunity here, but it's just always down to the fact of they've got Donald Powell just in front, and Tyshawn Green a bit misdirected on where he wanted to go, but as Donald Powell keeps out of the way, he knows that his battle is not with them. But as we approach halfway through the race, let's once again remind you of the sponsors that make it all happen here at HPR GT World Challenge. Firstly, our title sponsor, Hymo Setups. providing professional sim racing setups used by all HPR drivers and helps to elevate the standard of racing across all classes. Our good friends over at Monsters Design, providing custom race liveries, professional designs and branding for drivers and teams. And last but by certainly no means least, Admin Box, broadcast and operational support, helps race control. It's an organisational tool supporting league operations and structure. So with that being said, let's take you through the top 5 rundown as pit stops are currently underway for round 3 out of 10 here for season 10. Nick Maynard leads the way in overall and in GTD Pro. Christian Ruiz now has closed the gap to 1.5 seconds between himself and the number 100 in front. Henry Fenson rounds out the top 3, and he's in a battle with the remaining 2 cars in the top 5. Ryan Anderson in the number 46 BMW and Javier Santos in the number 589 Ford Mustang. Pro-Am, it's Jim Peel in the number 49 Ferrari, 1.1 seconds ahead of Carlos Ruiz Padilla. Nicolas Lafrance a further 6.2 seconds back in 3rd place in the number 18 Porsche. Scott Farrell in the sole McLaren on the field, running P4, 9th overall, and Nicolás Sanchez, who has made his mandatory stop, 13th at the minute, P5 in class. And lastly, Am, it's the might of Gaydon, with Andrew Davis behind the wheel of the number 25 Aston Martin leading the way. He's got Travis Stevens closing in on his 6 in the number 24 Corvette. Jason Burmeister in the number 17 Mustang rounds out the top 3 with Ted Seidel in the 53 Lamborghini. And currently in pit lane at the moment, Edgardo Gomez in the 37 Acura rounds out your top 5 roundup for all 3 classes, as we have just 28.5 minutes to go. And thanks everyone who just joined us here on Racer Nexus. You're in the company of Alex Goldschmidt and Sagar Bakshi, your commentary team, with Rob Campbell, our producer, behind the scenes here at Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands of what has been a very interesting first half of the 3rd round out of 10. And still, this battle here, I think, if I'm looking at it from pit strategy, so to speak, Sagar, that Fenson, Anderson and Santos might cover each other off.
They have the opportunity to do so. The gap is so tight between these drivers, it all comes down to the pit lane execution. That's what we've talked about from the word go, because at Zandvoort, track position means so much. It is extremely difficult to get overtakes done at Zandvoort. How many heavy braking zones are there? I don't need my fingers and toes. I can just say there's really one. It's turn 1. That's your only opportunity to get a run on someone, but you have to be threatening all the way from the last lap into turn 1. So getting that move done is a big, steep challenge.
Yeah, as now we see Anderson and, well, Fenson and Santos dive into pit lane. Henry
Fenson with a black flag, though.
He came in way too hot, and that is gonna hit him with a pit lane penalty. He's got to serve that immediately. He's got the car up on the air jacks. That is not going to help him one iota. Ryan Anderson continues in that 3-litre flat inline 6 twin power turbo BMW M4 GT3 Evo carries on. So Maynard, Ruiz and Anderson in Pro yet to pit. Peel and Padilla yet to pit. Nicolas Lafrance has come in for Pro-Am. Travis Stevens is the new race leader in the Am division, but that is heartbreaking for Henry Fenson. He was doing everything right in front of Ryan Anderson, and one wrong move, that pit lane can be a drama because you are at such high speed. You've got to be you've got to throw the anchors out of the back of it really, really quickly, and unfortunately for the Aussie, it was too little, too late.
Yeah, he was following someone down into pit road. I think it was Ted Seidel down in 21st position, the Lamborghini possibly, but he was following him into pit road and just a little too hot. I'm not sure where his focus was at, but it obviously wasn't on hitting the limiter in time. And again, something we talked about as keys to the race was pit lane execution and getting it right.
Yeah, that's the problem. Pit stops are so crucial in this series. It doesn't matter what class you're running in, it doesn't matter who you're battling against. If you have a faux pas on that strategy, the only person that you're going to be kicking yourself up the backside is yourself, saying, why did you do that? Why? It does happen, but it's part and parcel of racing.
Oh. Didn't get down to first gear before the line.
Ah.
And he's tried to stop to make up the time, but it just doesn't work out that way. You can try, but it doesn't hardly ever work out.
That is a real shame for Henry. But, you know, there is still there is always further opportunities. You know, we're on round 3 out of 10. There's still another 7 weeks of racing, including a midterm break. So I think at the end of the day, yeah, he's going to look back at it and say, why? I've done thousands and thousands of pit stops. So why should this be any different? But when you're down into second gear and you're on the brakes, until that gearbox is going to comply, because I found this out when I did, I went to to a good simulator venue, courtesy of our good mutual friend Saga, Mr. Mike Yao, Simply Racing Milton Keynes, and we were using iRacing on the Sims, and I was running in a GT4 competition, and I found out the hard way about gearboxes, how you have to wait for them to allow you to do the gear change, rather than you being at 7.5 grand plus change on the RPMs and trying to downshift, and the gearbox is like saying, no, it's not going to work. You got to wait.
You heard that wonderful, if you were driving an Audi, you would hear that wonderful meh sound, the downshift protection from Assetto Corsa Competizione. Wonderful sound. I absolutely loathe that car because in team endurances, that's what my friend would always pick. And 24 hours of listening to that buzz was great time. Great time, Alex Goldschmidt. Highly recommend it. But here and now, it's Sanchez leading Griffin in the battle nose to tail for the top 10. It is something that's spicing up right now. Dan Griffin is the driver that started up in second position. He's currently down 8 for the 100 Force team, 5.2K iRating. He is lapping like a bat out of you-know-where right now, and he's going to make the move on the number 2 sooner rather than later. Into the braking zone, going into turn 1. Makes the move, but only threatens that position until we get to the apex, gets fully alongside, forces the 2 to the curb, but no respect given into turn number 2 as he looks to the inside line and demanded a little bit of real estate, a little too far back for my taste.
Well, I think the thing is Nicolás Sanchez wants to defend that position. It's irrespective of whether it's a pro behind him, as it looks like Dan Griffin has picked up some damage on that newly replaced front bumper. Now he's got some headlights with some DRLs running on it, but more to the point, you know, if you're wanting a top 10 finish, you are not going to give any quarter. But again, it's down to the fact that Dan Griffin has had the comeback drive of the night. Meantime, Travis Stevens has come out in front of Andrew Davis for the AM battle, and more to the point, the gap is about 4.5 tenths. So Davis wanted to get back onto that leading position, as there you see, picture in picture, Andrew Davis, those tyres and brakes are up to temp, whereas Travis Stevens has sat stationary for about 24 seconds in pit road. It's the long pit lane. It's quite deceptive here at Zandvoort, because you come in through out of Ari Lyondike, but then you've got to wait all the way until you head into Gerlach, because before you come back onto the circuit itself, as well, what is Nicolás Sanchez doing? Okay, yes, Dan Griffin was on the flashers, but that was a little bit too much movement for my liking there.
Yeah, a lot of defensive action going on. But again, like you said, no quarters given when you're battling for a top 10, regardless if it's a pro or a pro-am. You're going to leave it all on the line with 21 minutes left to go. Everybody is jostling for a position. Here's the move yet again. Dan Griffin trying to go back, but it looks like a couple of weaves back and forth before the position was relinquished.
Yeah, but, well, in the meantime... Oh, okay, right. Christian Ruiz has now finally pitted, and now this brings him right up close and personal. He came out of the pit lane behind Nick Maynard to the tune of about 6 tenths. And bearing in mind, Ruiz, if he was another second quicker in that pit stop, he would have actually been ahead of Maynard. And now just a quick double flash of the high beams to Maynard, as if to say, right, coming through. Meantime, Andrew Davis has made the move on Travis Stevens. That is the AM class lead battle. And oh my goodness, Maynard having to get through on Stevens. Could this open the door for Ruiz to close that gap? It is starting to truncate significantly. So Stevens now finds himself a little bit further behind Andrew Davis than he would have liked, as Maynard makes his way through on Davis. Ruiz gets through as well, and now the AM class battle can resume. So battle for the lead in Pro, battle for the lead in AM on the same part of real estate, as we've got just under 20 minutes to go here at Circuit Zandvoort for round 3 out of 10 for season 10 of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge. What a race it's been so far. Great strategy calls, great racing, and more to the point, we still have, out of our runners and riders, we now have 24 out of the 27 starters still out on track. We've had one retiree in each class. Jace Larson in the Pro Division at lap 2, lap 3 for Nicholas Matthews in Pro Am, and Chase Eisenberg in the number 20 Initial D Mercedes-Benz out on lap number 13, as we ride on board with Nicholas Lafrance, who's got Dan Griffin sniffing up his inside, and that Ferrari's new bumper has seen better days. That has been taking a few hits there, here or there.
Absolutely true. But here is Dan Griffin just really throwing his weight around and charging through the field. Just moments ago, he was trying to get by Sanchez and did so with grace and style. Now he looks at LaFrance and thinks the same doing. He's doing it against one Porsche. Why not do it again? Here's the run coming out of the final corner. And this one, it will be positive gain for Griffin. I can only imagine so. He's going to do the same thing he did last time. He's going to make that look to the inside line and stick to it under braking. A little too far back this time around. No doing here.
Yeah, and I think it's just the case that LaFrance will know that his race is not with the man behind him, it's the man behind him further, as Nicholas Lafrance gets a black flag, and that is going to cost him a podium. So Nicholas Lafrance has exceeded his 15x incident point limit. That's going to put him for a drive-through penalty, and he's going to have to serve that very, very quickly. Because when you think, yeah, it looks like maybe Dan Griffin gave it a little bit of a tap, and maybe you've just touched him over that limit. And the thing is that when you are the faster vehicle, no contact is to be made, and you are to make the move. And Griffin having a little bit of a wobble in the Ferrari. Lancier's just is looking very smooth and silky there with the way he's driving that car at the minute. But now Nicolás Sanchez is going to be promoted to P2 in the division, as Lafrance will have to serve that
Yes, LaFrance will have to serve that black flag penalty within the next 3 or so. But Maynard right now is going to be the one cutting through the field like a hot knife and butter. 104's Pro driver has pulled out a 1.4 second gap to Ruiz behind, and I think he sees double because he's got a Ruiz in front of him as well, as Maynard gets a little loose as he mounts the curve. I'm sure the onboard looks a little bit more dramatic than the outboard does.
I think you might be right on that front, Sagar, because they've just got to be very, very careful. You've got to get to the end of this race to score these points, as we've got 16.25 minutes left to go, and it's anyone's guess. I mean, Maynard now, he's got several drivers in front, including Carlos Ruiz Padilla, and it's just been a case of survival of the fittest. And if you can keep that survival instinct about you, that's your meal ticket. That's your golden ticket to get to the checkered flag. And it just goes to show the quality and the caliber of the drivers. You've got to be just so careful. But Carlos Ruiz Padilla has got his countryman Christian Ruiz right behind him. Now this is possibly a race deciding moment with just over 15 minutes to go. A quarter of an hour remains, and it is now a flat-out sprint to the checkered flag at this point.
And a quick dive out of the way from Ruiz to Ruiz as Christian Ruiz gets through in that lucky number 7. BMW doesn't fight back. Will slot back in coming into the final chicane. The Ferrari leads now the P2 between the duo. But Ferrari on Ferrari battles? Yes. Bring it on. Maynard flashes, excuse me, not Maynard, Christian Ruiz flashes his headlights up ahead. Battle still brews on for Travis Stevens.
Yeah, that was David Henry in the 22 Ferrari that Christian Ruiz has just managed to get through on. But yeah, Davis versus Stevens gap is half a second as we are now on to lap 30. 7 laps being completed here in the Netherlands before we head to, and it'll be same place, same time. So if you haven't already, folks, why not hit that like button, share and subscribe as Travis Stevens goes on Andrew Davis coming through Hunsrück. Stevens might get the Ottomacher, undulation, nearly unsettles. But, well, Stevens had a really good run coming out of Hugenholtz, just to the high side, got as low to the apex as possible, and it gave the Corvette the traction.
Gave the Corvette the traction. It was a good move, good looking stuff here at HPR at the circuit Zandvoort for the HPR GT World Challenge. Only a few laps are going to remain here as we just have 13 minutes left on the clock. Nicholas Maynard, barring any mistakes, should take the victory, but anything can happen in motorsports, and it typically does. Christian Ruiz really doing his darndest right now to catch up, but the lap times are not improving. 32.0 to a 31.9 from Maynard. Battle still brews for Travis Stevens. He's within 1 second, or within 1/10 of a second, from Andrew Davis right now as they come through the first sector.
Yeah, Stevens kicking up the dust as they come through Tarzan and then into Gerlach before the high-sided banking. And again, look at Stevens. He's going as high as he can, and then the Corvette gets real good traction on the middle of the circuit. So this is why he's able to keep pace with Andrew Davis. Lovely sound from that flat plane crank V8 in the back of that Corvette as they head now into Schevelach, down in towards turn 8 at Masters. Of course, this circuit used to host the Zandvoort F3 Masters back in the day, including with the likes of Tom Coronel, Jos Verstappen, and so many other Dutch talent that have made their way into so many great races, such as the Grand Prix of Macau. But Stevens still trying to put one up on Andrew Davis at this point. 12 minutes to go, and battle lines have been drawn, but still battles have not yet been decided. It's going to come down to the wire here at Circuit Zandvoort, and then we have a completely different dynamic when we head to the Miami International Autodrome, the home of the Miami F1 Grand Prix. And also surrounding the home of NFL's Miami Dolphins in just 7 days' time. But here on the North Sea coast, it might be grey, it might be cloudy, but the track is as dry as a bone right now.
Don't you think they missed out on a great opportunity to call it the Dan Marino Grand Prix?
I was on the Marino Grand Prix. I mean, you know, when you think about it, Dan Marino, if anyone might remember, he did turn his hand to acting, if I remember correctly, with Sean Young and Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective as a washed-out quarterback.
What a throwback fact, Alex. Pull that out of left field. But no, I tremendously think that they missed out. It should be called the Dan Marino Grand Prix, and then it would be done. We have the Emilio Romagna Grand Prix. Now we have the Dan Marino Grand Prix. It's just fitting for the Miami Autodrome. But back to the racing action. Nikolai Sanchez is up a few positions right now, but Henry Fenton is trying to change all of that. Currently, about 7/10 back for the Evolution Simports. He tumbled down the order early on in this event and then has done his best to climb back up. The only one that's out of this one so far, excuse me, the only position that he's gained so far is back has been over Larson, who's been out of the race since the beginning.
Yeah. So we have just 10 minutes to go. Maynard versus Ruiz at the front end of the field. Ryan Anderson looks to be very, very much set on being P3 at the end of this race. He's 30.5 seconds behind this leading battle. Jim Peel in the number 49 car has a 3-second lead over Nicolay Sanchez, but big drama. But despite the fact of having to suffer a drive-through penalty, Nicholas Lafrance still holds on to third place and is 5 seconds ahead of Scott Farrell in the sole McLaren. Davis and Stevens, they're like two petulant children on the fighting over the last swing in the playground over the AM class lead. 3/10 cover them at the minute. So we could find there are going to be some grandstand finishes. It looks like the biggest set of fireworks that is going to be lit is going to be in the AM class between Messrs Davis and Stevens. But I'm wondering, does Christian Ruiz have the pace to close that gap to Nick Maynard? Bearing in mind the lap times last time around after 32 laps are 1:32.03 for Ruiz, Maynard a 32.15. So there is pace there. It's just about how much more can Christian Ruiz extract over the next few laps. We could be looking at another 7 to go, including the next time around as our leaders come out of Arie Luyendyk bocht at turn 14. And that slipstream is starting to kick in a little bit here. And he's on another cheeky little double flash there again by Christian Ruiz. Just reminding Nick Maynard, yep, I'm there, as they're now going to have to get through on Scott Farrell. And to the outside goes through Maynard, having to take a little bit more risk. Ruiz saw Farrell get out of the way, saw the room, got through, and now up the hill, through into Hunsrück, then into Slaughtermacher, and then down the hill through the fast right-hander here at Scheiblack. And look at that, Maynard so hard on the limit that he even managed to mow some of the local grass with the left front of his splitter.
Mowing a little grass or taking home a little souvenir from the Zandvoort track and adjacent to the dunes. I'm surprised that the weather hasn't played a bigger factor in today's race. I mean, Zandvoort is right on the coast, so that wind that was coming in that we talked about early on in the race, the 11 miles per hour, you know, that could have been gusting down into turn 1 and helping you brake, or it could be trying to throw you off the racetrack.
Yeah, temperature has slightly dropped in terms of track temp. We're down to just over 21.6 degrees centigrade, 20.1 air, so 68 Fahrenheit for the air temp, track temp 71 degrees. Wind has now moved to the south, which is actually a southerly wind. North is mainly down the start-finish straight, so there is going to be possibly a little bit of a tailwind assist. But with 6 minutes and 50 to go, we've got a replay coming up here, and this is going to be Ian Morrison, the man from Canada. And he's just keeping out of the way, and then comes to a stop. I'm not too sure what happened there, but he brought that car back into pit lane, it looks like. Might have decided to have called it quits, as Nicolas Lanciers now gets a black flag, so has hit his instant point limit. But look at this, Travis Stevens to the outside of Andrew Davis, and that is the change with 6 minutes to go for the lead in AM. But I know for a fact this is far from over. You can see how aggressive on the counter-attack Andrew Davis was there, Sagar.
Absolutely. This is going to be a battle to the checkered flag for sure. 4 laps remain according to the timing tower, but with a bonus lap on the horizon, who knows if Andrew Davis will get an extra chance or not. Same thing needs to be said for Christian Ruiz in that lucky number 7. His job is just to get that gap down so he can be there when the opportunity presents itself. And Griffin now with a black flag penalty, and I think he's out of this one himself.
Yeah, he's currently in the pit lane at the moment. And let's have a look. Dan Griffin, this is coming through into Gerlachbocht, whether he's had a moment. And, oh, he goes straight on, bang, straight into the barriers off of Gerlachbocht, and that has damaged the left front steering and upright. So that is it, game over for Dan Griffin. Won't score points if he does not make it to the checkered, and he'll have towed that, so there's going to be an additional amount of time added to his pit stop because of it. Christian Ruiz, I think he's going to become our Mr. Consistency because he's not placed off at the podium over the opening 3 races here in HPR GT World Challenge. Henry Fence, in the meantime, closing in on Jim Peel. This is a battle for position on the track, but not for class position, as that's a little bit of a misstep there from Jim Peel. Running with the Gomez Simmons, the GSI.com livery. Gomez Sim Industries makes some pretty awesome steering wheels. Had the opportunity to test them for a couple of years at the Sim Racing Expo, which is heading to Frankfurt this year in October. But Fenton looking to stretch the legs on that V8 Mercedes. He's in the draft. He's to the inside at Tarzan. Jim Peel is not really going to fight it that much, and he's going to let Fenton go through. So change for P6 overall does not change in any other classification, because Fenton stays P6 in Pro, and Jim Peel leading the way by 2.8 seconds over Nicolas Sanchez in the number 2 Porsche. So 3 minutes and 45 seconds on the ticker to go. The next time around we'll have 2 laps remaining, so we'll be on lap 38 out of 39. And Christian Ruiz, has he found a little something extra in these last couple of moments? As we see picture in picture, we ride on board with the number 7 Ferrari, and that gap at one point just a few seconds ago was at 0.9 seconds. It's now gone up to 1.1. It's a pendulum swing, and that's one of the things I love about our timing tower here, Sagar, is the fact that we're actually getting the real-time relative delta.
It is a great looking timing tower. I mean, thanks to the Racer Nexus broadcast team for doing all the hard work to get this one stitched together, but it is quite beautiful. The way things are laid out, the colors, it just all flows together. Right now, Christian Ruiz still trails Maynard, but the battle between Peel and Sanchez has diminished because that's 2.7 seconds. Stevens and Davis separated themselves by a second. Will that Aston Martin be able to clutch it together coming into the final 2 laps of this event? Maynard leads us around for the penultimate time. Yeah, so lap 37 completed, 2 laps to go. That's 5.2 miles here at Circuit Zandvoort before we go to Miami next week. And the gap is still around about that 9/10 of a second marker. Ruiz again losing time in the opening sector, but claws nearly 3/10 of it back through sector 2. And again, it's just like it was at the beginning of the race. Maynard is really quick through sectors 1 and 3, and Ruiz just seems to have nailed the aspect of negotiating your way through turn 7 at Schevelach as you hit sector 2, then going through into Masters, turn 9, turn 10, and then going to Hans Ernst at turn 11. That's where you break the timing beam for the 3rd and final sector, and it's that heavy braking zone that can sometimes catch drivers out of, as we have seen all the way through this race. But we are at a minute 30. Next time around will be the white flag. Nick Maynard looking for 2 wins back-to-back here at HPR GT World Challenge for round 3 of season 10. He's been very calm and cool and collected. And there you see our top 3 in the battle for the lead: Maynard, Ruiz and Anderson. Anderson is probably going to be more than happy with the P3 finish, but Ruiz has got to think about, he's going to be scratching his head between now and next week as to what do I need to do? What do I need to bring apart from my A game for the next round at Miami? 1 lap to go, and oh, Ruiz was light on fuel. Ruiz was light on fuel, splash and dash. He might just, if he can, make it out in front of Anderson. This is going to be tight for P2 as Ruiz on his marks
He could have possibly fueled maybe a couple of seconds longer, maybe, and that would have put him straight into the hunt. He would have been able to have gone full guns pushing ahead, well, along with Nick Maynard, as Dan Griffin has called time. But here we go. Ruiz is out. He had enough of a window, he felt, between himself and Anderson. So Christian Ruiz is going to finish P2 this time around. He's had a win, a third, and now it will be a second. But more to the point, it's time to concentrate on this man here, the first driver in the Pro Division to pick up 2 race wins. What a drive it has been by the 100 Force number 100 Ferrari 296 GT3 of Nick Maynard. He's took pole position. He's got the fastest lap of the race, and he's going to get the Grand Chelem, getting the race victory out of turn 12 for the final time. Just Kumo and Adi Leyendijk remains for the number 100 car. Well, you can't say it couldn't have gotten any better than that. Nick Maynard out of the final corner picks up win number 2 in a row and wins round 3 here at Circuit Zandvoort by a comfortable margin after a last gasp dash for fuel for Christian Ruiz, who will round out second. He's making his way through the final complex, and it will be Ryan Anderson that will bring BMW to the rostrum in the number 46 High Point Racing BMW M4 GT3 Evo. Ruiz will cross the line very shortly, as he does now. Anderson powers out of the final corner and will take the win, take P3. But Sagat, what a run by Jim Peel. He's made up 3 places. He's P7. The man representing not just the Isle of Man via way of the United States of America. He has done a great job here tonight. So Ferrari is going to take 2 wins out of the 3 classes here at Zandvoort.
And Nikolai Sanchez being a hard charger tonight, or at least one of them. 5 positions gained for him. Nicholas Lafrance with 7, and he'll be 3rd in the class. And then we have Stevens and Davis to round out with a couple of don'ts to enjoy their bout. Davis and Stevens cross the line, and Burmeister in 3rd.
So, yeah, well, I think Stevens did get the win in the AM division, doing the Dutch equivalent. Well, I'll call it the Stroopwafels. Oh, right, that was someone definitely yeeting the barriers, and has just been punted to the shadow realm. But nevertheless, 60 minutes are done and dusted. We've got a couple of other drivers, I think, waiting to cross the line. I think Chris Edwards was one of those, but Travis Stevens wins in AM. But 3 different winners, 2 different manufacturers in total. Edgardo Gomez, 18.3 seconds off of a podium here in the Acura, but the dust has settled here on the North Sea coast. There's Thomas King still running. He's yet to complete his, well, he's due to be on the lead lap of this race, but nevertheless, let's have a look at the results. Nick Maynard makes it 2 out of 3, 2 back-to-back ahead of Christian Ruiz, with Ryan Anderson rounding out the top 3. Ruiz, if he'd have fueled for a couple more seconds, could it have changed the complexity for the race win? So Xavi Santos in the Mustang, Tyshawn Green and Henry Fenson round out the main finishers. Dan Griffin finishes 3 laps down on 7th place ahead of Jace Larson. Sagat, take us through Pro-Am.
Absolutely. It was Jim Peel who crossed the line first, followed by Nikolai Sanchez 1.9 seconds back, and Nicholas Lafrance in 3rd position for the category. Scott Farrell, then Carlos Ruiz Padilla in 5th for the HPR organization. David Henry, Thomas King, Kenneth Cloden from Cloden 1, Donald Powell, and Nicholas Matthews round out the top 10.
Then we head to the GTD AM division. Travis Stevens takes the win over Andrew Davis by just under 1.2 seconds. A great battle between them all race long. Jason Burmeister in the 17 Mustang rounds out your top 3 with Edgardo Gomez, Ted Seidel, Chris Edwards and Ian Morrison running at the top 7. Nicolas Lanciers finishing 6 laps down, and Chase Eisenberg retiring after lap number 13. Well, That's it for the on-track action. Meantime, we've got our admin box post-race show to get on with, and we've got our race winner. He's done it back-to-back. Winner at Imola, now winner at Circuit Zandvoort. Nick Maynard joins us. Nick, another bell-binding, spectacular victory from yourself. Christian did not make it easy, but a bit of a shame about your colleague Dan Griffin having dramas multiple times during the race, but you bring it home for 100 force here at Zandvoort.
Yeah, that was quite a wild ride at the start. Yeah, I saw it happen in my mirror, and of course we were on chat together, so that was disappointing to see. And anytime your teammate crashes out, you start thinking about other things, and so I just tried to focus back and get my head on right and start hitting my fuel number. And yeah, Christian, gosh, he was putting on a good drive. I was extremely shocked to see him go an extra lap. I thought for sure I was going to have him covered, and when he passed me when I dove into the pits, I thought I was in trouble. But fantastic race.
Yeah, I think had Christian maybe fueled a little bit more, he could have put you a little bit more under threat in the final moments of the race. I think it was quite a surprise when we saw him with, I think the gap was anywhere between 1.2 and 0.9 seconds. You still had to be eyeballs on stalks, didn't you, buddy?
Oh yeah, I could not make a mistake. I got lucky a few times when I would kind of push too hard, come out of a corner and slip a tire. It seemed like he was making the same mistakes I was, so the gap stayed even. But he kept me honest. He was pushing me, made me sweat over here, and that was fantastic.
Well, you took the win at Imola. You've now taken the win at Zandvoort, which means congratulations on the victory, but also another 1 month subscription with Hymo Setups, helping you out a little bit more here in GT World Challenge. Next up, we go to Miami in a week's time. How do you think the Ferrari is going to do round there? Because there's going to be a lot of straight line speed required.
Yeah, that's I'm not sure. Like I've mentioned earlier, we're pretty new to the Ferrari, coming from the Mustang. So the Mustang was pretty good at Miami. I enjoyed driving it there. But yeah, hopefully I'll have some time to practice a little bit, and we're gonna show up and race whatever we got and just try to gain every inch on track we can. See how it shakes down.
Brilliant. Nick, before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to in particular reference this victory tonight?
Yep, teammates, 100 force, and then my wife for taking care of me. I've been pretty sick all weekend. I was shocked I made it through the whole race. So,
well, Nick, get well soon, buddy, and get yourself ready and fighting fit at 100% next time out at Miami. Well done tonight. Congratulations, and we'll see you in a week's time. Well done.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Okay, big thank you there to Nick Maynard. And joining Sagar Bakshi, our Pro-Am winner, he's joined by Jim Peel.
Jim, how does it feel to be on the top step of the podium at the end of the night? I mean, what a hard charge. You had to climb up those positions at the end of the night. How did you do it, and what was the recipe for success? Because Alex grilled me at the beginning of the race. What were the actual keys to the race for you?
What I found was what worked was just chasing consistency, not pushing hard the whole race, just trying to click lap after lap after lap within a couple tenths and keep the race clean. I did have one near slide on cold tires after my pit stop, but the big thing I think was just running a clean race, because this track is tricky on the brakes in a lot of spots. It's easy to lose it.
And we saw that happen a few times throughout this event, drivers losing out ground under braking, but consistency being step number one. Step number two is, how do you get the overtakes done at the end of the night with such a tight track that's momentum based? There aren't a lot of heavy braking zones here.
Yeah, it's really watching what the person in front of you is doing and just is finding a spot where you get that little bit of speed to get alongside. And it seems like once you get alongside, because there's not so many places to pass, it's fairly easy to make it stick. It's just getting that little bit alongside to start you off.
It all worked out well for you at the end of the night. A culmination of those 2 points gave you a recipe for success. Jim, who would you like to shout out, or is there anybody you'd like to thank here in Victory Lane?
The High Point guys for putting this on, and then Hymo for their setups. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jim. Have a great night, and as always, stay safe out there.
I appreciate you too.
Well, a big thank you there to Jim Peel. We got one more interview to round up the admin box post-race interview show, and what a titanic battle it was, because it wasn't Andrew Davis that won. Travis Stevens, welcome to Victory Lane. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have to say, Travis, that was a hell of a battle between yourself in the Corvette and Andrew Davis in the Aston Martin. It was unstoppable force versus immovable object, but you came out as out on top for that one. What was the key to your strategy in the dying moments of the race? Because we saw you at one point going wheel to wheel with Andrew up the hill, heading towards T7, and you were 2 wheels on the grass, my friend.
I don't know. I was 2 wheels on the grass. I was just trying to give him as much space as possible. But no, the first stint of that race, I just kind of took it nice and easy. Didn't really push the car that much. And then once I made my pit stop, changed the tires, did the same thing, kind of took it nice and easy, let the tires warm up. And then I slowly, and when I came out of my pits, or came out my pit stop, I was closer than I was to him before the pit stop. So I thought, okay, I got a chance at it. And it just took a little bit of time and patience, and I finally got it.
Yeah, and you must be feeling on cloud 9 right now, because it's not an easy track, you know, considering some of the other circuits that we've had so far in HPR GT World Challenge. But Miami next week, Corvette should be strong around there with that flat plane crank V8, wouldn't you say?
I hope so. That Miami's a track that I don't have a lot of experience at, so I'm definitely going to be practicing a lot this week.
Well, I don't blame you for saying that at all, Travis, but congratulations on the win here in the GTD AM division. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Give a shout out to, Tail Tank Investments, Rockwell Security, Pinnacle Power Washing. Those guys have been with me since I've been on iRacing since the start of 2020.
Well, Travis, congratulations on the W here at Zandvoort. We'll see you next week for round 4 at Miami.
Thank you, guys.
So a big thank you there to our top 3 as our admin box post-race interview show comes to a conclusion. And that's really it for us here at Racer Nexus. Been in the company of Alex Goldschmidt, Sagar Bakshi, and our producer behind the scenes, Mr. Rob Campbell. We also have to say a big thank you to you all watching on the Racer Nexus YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and make sure the notification bell is active. A big thank you to the sponsors of the High Point Racing GT World Challenge. Firstly, Hymo Setups. And then we have to also look at our good friends at Monster Designs, another part of the crew that has been with us since the previous season here on HPR GT World Challenge. A big thank you to Admin Box, and we have 2 new friends in terms of sponsors to welcome to the family. Based out of Monmouth County, New Jersey, Smile Theory, who provides smile design, veneers, Invisalign and dental implants with natural results. And then Colorist Art Supplies, also based out of New Jersey, offers high quality materials, professional custom framing and expert-led art classes for all skill levels. Well, the dust has settled here alongside the North Sea coast, but the heat will be on in just 7 days' time as we head to the home of the Miami Dolphins, the home of Dan Marino, and of course the home of the Miami Grand Prix in 7 days' time, 9 p.m. Eastern here on Racer Nexus. A big thank you to you all for watching. We will see you same place, same time next week as HPR GT World Challenge continues.